20 points per game, 7th in the league in scoring. Here's the league's 3rd leading scorer in Caitlin Clark. Spinning on Beckers, they go one-on-one, and Clark wins the matchup. Dallas now 0 of 8 from out there.
You love the swing to an open shot.
Clark on the drive, gets inside and lays it in.
Resilience around wanting to play in this league.
Clark steps back and drops the 2. Difficult shot from the mid-range there for Caitlin Clark. She's got 8 points. Tough shot for Arike Agumbawale.
The percentage of unassisted baskets for Arike are the lowest of her career. As Clark steps back and drills it.
Career had it knocked away. Stolen by Timpson. Clark fires. And it goes down!
We need to talk about what Caitlin Clark did in the 3rd quarter against the Dallas Wings, because what she produced in those critical minutes is the kind of individual performance that separates elite players from the rest of the field, and that reminded everyone watching exactly why this franchise and this moment in women's professional basketball is worth every ounce of attention it has received. But we also need to talk about the first half that made that 3rd quarter necessary, because honest analysis demands the full picture. The Indiana Fever defeated the Dallas Wings 98-87. That is the final score. That is the result. And if you watched only the scoreboard and not the game itself, you might conclude this was a comfortable victory, managed cleanly from start to finish. That is not what actually happened. What actually happened required Caitlin Clark to look around at the first half situation Indiana had created for themselves, decide that she was personally going to drag this team to where it needed to be, and then go out in the 3rd quarter and deliver 17 points in a performance that changed everything about the competitive trajectory of this game. Let us start with the first half, because honest analysis demands acknowledging the full picture rather than simply celebrating the outcome. Indiana scored 35 points in the first half. Dallas scored 37. Let that sink in. The Wings, operating without Jessica Shepard, who is legitimately their most important player and whose absence fundamentally changes what Dallas is capable of, and without AZ Falou, who was unavailable with a knee issue, somehow outscored Indiana for 2 full quarters. A shorthanded Dallas team was in front of the Indiana Fever at halftime. The first half was dreadful. There is no more charitable description available. The shooting was inconsistent. The ball movement broke down repeatedly. Clark had 6 of the Fever's 7 assists through her first 28 minutes of play, which tells you everything about how much of Indiana's offensive organization was running through a single player while everyone around her either struggled to create independently or failed to convert the opportunities she was generating. Mikayla Timpson had a difficult outing, committing 3 turnovers in situations where holding on to the ball was the fundamental requirement. Aaliyah Boston was missing layups with a consistency that raised familiar questions. Lexi Hall was not finding her game. It was the kind of collective first half that tests the patience of anyone watching with clear eyes and honest expectations.
Caitlin Clark, the 3rd best scorer in the league, tied with Alyssa Thomas right now at assists. And Pat, buckle up, man. This is going to be fun.
20 points per game, 7th in the league in scoring. Here's the league's 3rd leading scorer in Caitlin Clark. Spinning on Beckers, they go one-on-one, and Clark wins the matchup.
You know, Pat, today I watched her last 100 two-point made baskets on Synergy because I was curious. Man, she can get where she wants off the bounce. So efficient. It's tough because she moves so well without the ball.
Offensive rebound, Segrist. Is now 0 of 8 from out there.
You love the swing to an open shot.
Clark on the drive, gets inside and lays it in. First team All-WNBA. Beckers as a rookie. 2nd team All-WNBA. Both will be perennial All-Stars for years to come as Kawir, tough finish. Beckers on Mitchell, 2 more. She's got 10.
That's money right there.
Here is Clark, 3 on 2, bouncing for Timpson, who had it knocked away. Alana Smith with the great hands comes up with the block. Agumbawale takes it at Clark and gets the roll. It's been a challenge for Indiana this year, but it hasn't led to offensive execution here tonight. Billings backing in, turns, fades, fires, and hits.
Wow. Resilience around wanting to play in this league.
Clark steps back and drops the 2. Difficult shot from the mid-range there for Caitlin Clark. She's got 8 points. Second shot clock and game clock. Tie game at 35. Alana Smith. As Alicia Clark pulls down the rebound. One last look for Dallas. Beckers connects.
And then the third quarter started. Clark looked at the situation, assessed what the moment required, and decided the only available option was to personally fix what the first half had broken. 17 points in the third quarter alone. Not 17 points in a game where she had been rolling from the opening minutes. 17 points in a single quarter after a grinding and uncomfortable first half where her three-point shot was not falling at the rates her game typically produces. She crossed half court and stepped into a pull-up jumper with a defender closing out on her. She ran in transition, went behind her back, and finished around the rim with the kind of individual craft that makes her genuinely difficult to stop when the game flows through her instincts. She read passing lanes and turned defensive reads into easy offensive baskets. She put Paige Beckers in the air, froze the decision-making, and attacked with the composure and execution of someone who has been in these competitive situations thousands of times. She did all of this because the first half had been what it had been, and she decided it was her responsibility to change the outcome. That is the Clark that every Indiana fan knows exists. That is the Clark who looks at a difficult competitive situation and responds by making the result her personal responsibility. Final numbers: 29 points, 10 assists, 3 rebounds, 11 of 18 from the field, 2 of 8 from three-point range, which is where the night was harder than her typical standard. She easily could have reached 30 points if the three-point shot had been falling at her season average. She easily could have finished with 15 or more assists if the players around her had converted the opportunities she created with more consistency.
Dallas, 5 players outside the three-point line.
Clark shot fakes the three and gets to the rim.
She attacks the hip of her defender, and she's always lower.
Agumbawale working on hole, gets the angle and one. Arike Agumbawale. Now we are seeing the Clark and Beckers back and forth. Mitchell into the teeth of the defense, blocked by Clark. Tough shot for Arike Agumbawale.
The percentage of unassisted baskets for Arike are the lowest of her career. As Clark steps back and drills it. Fudder not available to play tonight. 2 starters typically for Dallas.
Oh, Harris, friendly home court bounce, banks in a 3.
The best scorer in the nation in college basketball at Middle Tennessee State for Rick Insell.
Kelsey Mitchell knows a little bit about scoring in college and at the pro level, and Mitchell levels his back at 68.
That's Indiana basketball, pushing.
Mitchell cross court, skip it to Ty Harris. Harris is 3 for 3.
The surrounding cast let her down at various points throughout this game, and she still finished with a dominant individual line that carried Indiana to a 9-point victory. Kelsey Mitchell contributed 23 points on 9 of 21 shooting and 1 of 7 from three-point range. Mitchell shot 21 times to produce those 23 points, which reflects both her importance to the offense when Clark's three-point shot is not falling and the inefficiency that can creep into high-volume shooting nights. Getting to 23 points as a scorer is always a meaningful contribution, and Mitchell's physical play and individual scoring kept Indiana in striking distance during the first half when the collective offense was struggling to generate consistent quality looks. Ty Harris deserves specific and enthusiastic recognition for what she provided off the bench. In the fourth quarter, with Indiana building the separation they needed to close this game out cleanly, Harris went 5 of 5 from three-point range for 15 points. 5 of 5. When a bench contributor delivers that kind of accuracy in the closing stages of a competitive game, the win becomes considerably more comfortable than the first half suggested it would ever be. Harris gave Indiana exactly what they needed from that bench role in the moments that mattered most for putting this game away. Aaliyah Boston produced 16 points and 10 assists. The assist number is encouraging and reflects genuine playmaking investment from a player who has sometimes been criticized for not fully committing to the facilitation role that Clark's system creates around her. The missed layups that appeared throughout the game remain a persistent concern. whether Boston's close-range conversion issues reflect a physical situation she is managing or the consequence of a coaching system that has repositioned her game increasingly toward the perimeter and away from the interior areas where her size and skill should make her one of the more efficient finishers in the league. The franchise has not adequately addressed that question publicly in any way that satisfies the people watching most closely. Sophie Cunningham played 20 minutes and scored 5 points. After everything that happened to her in the Dejanay Carrington incident and the controversy-filled week that followed, simply seeing Cunningham on the floor, competing and contributing is worth acknowledging specifically. She is on this team. She is playing. And the broader institutional conversation about what Indiana owes her in terms of genuine advocacy and organizational protection continues to be relevant, regardless of any individual game's box score. Mikayla Timpson, despite the difficult outing with 3 turnovers and some missed conversion opportunities that would normally be routine, deserves a clear and direct defense of her continued place in this starting lineup. One difficult game after a stretch of building genuine value does not justify reverting to previous rotation configurations that were producing demonstrably worse overall outcomes for this team. The argument is straightforward, and it needs to be stated plainly. One rough game from Timpson in the starting role is categorically more acceptable than the ongoing pattern of production that alternative rotation decisions were generating earlier this season. Punishing a player for one difficult game when she has been contributing meaningfully to wins would be the exact kind of coaching error that has generated sustained criticism of this franchise's lineup management throughout the year. Do not go back. Trust what the sample size of recent games is showing. Dallas was without Jessica Shepard. Dallas was without AZ Falou. Both absences are relevant to understanding the competitive context of this game. Indiana needed to win this game against a shorthanded opponent at home. They needed a 98-87 victory with comfortable fourth-quarter separation. They delivered that result. They did not deliver it cleanly for 3 quarters, and they required a 17-point individual third-quarter performance from their franchise player to ensure the game never genuinely slipped away. But they won. Back-to-back home victories is the competitive result. The context surrounding this franchise makes every win carry more weight than it might in a different organizational environment. The booing of Stephanie White by Indiana's own fans at the most recent home game before this one. The formal statement from team president Kelly Krauskopf defending the coaching staff in response to that unprecedented display of fan frustration. Clark's careful and diplomatic public navigation of the coaching controversy the fan base is actively expressing. All of that is the backdrop against which this Dallas victory was achieved, and understanding that backdrop is essential for understanding why a 98-87 win that required a heroic individual quarter to secure carries the significance it carries right now. The first half against a shorthanded Dallas team was not acceptable. Trailing at halftime to a team missing its 2 most significant contributors is not the standard that Indiana's talent level demands. The third quarter was not a solution to the first half problem. It was Clark personally absorbing the consequences of the first half and refusing to allow those consequences to determine the outcome. That is an extraordinary thing for a franchise player to do. It is also a sign that the collective engagement and consistent execution this team needs to become a genuine championship contender has not yet arrived with the reliability that the talent available should be producing. The only path to the outcomes this team's talent makes possible is the path that has been identified and documented through every game this season where it has been genuinely applied. Put the ball in Clark's hands. Run the offense through her decisions. Allow her to make the plays that create opportunities for everyone else on the floor. Trust the system when it is working, and do not abandon it when a first half is rough. The third quarter against Dallas is proof of what happens when Clark has space and freedom to operate without structural constraints limiting what her game can do. 17 points. The game transformed. Indiana in control. That is the formula, and its results are observable every single time it is applied with real commitment. The question that has followed this franchise through this entire season is whether the coaching staff will apply it with the consistency required for this team to realize its potential when the postseason arrives and the stakes reach their highest point. Tonight, against a shorthanded Dallas team, Clark answered the call when the game required it. She put Indiana on her back in the third quarter, delivered 17 points when the team needed them most, and ensured that back-to-back home wins would be the result that went into the standings. 29 points, 10 assists, a third quarter that changed the game. Ty Harris with 5 of 5 from 3 in the fourth to close it cleanly. Michaela Timpson earning the right to stay in the starting lineup despite one difficult night. And the Dallas Wings heading home without the win they briefly appeared capable of delivering in the first half. The playoff push is real, the season is progressing, and Caitlin Clark is making sure Indiana stays in the conversation by doing in the third quarter against Dallas what she has been doing all season, showing up when it matters, taking ownership of the moment, and winning.